I'm SP from the GonnaGeek.com show, a weekly geek news podcast that is part of the GonnaGeek.com network. Just like the show you're checking out now, shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other amazing geek shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And welcome to Play Comics, where once again we're looking at a video game based on a comic property and how well it represents that source material. And today we have a few mysteries to solve and probably some things to steal. And so it's a good thing that I am not trying to guard everything by myself. Today I've got Robbie Sherman here from Conversations with Robbie Sherman. Imagine that. Robbie, how are you today?
As gentlemanly of a thief as I possibly can be today, my friend. I'm happy to sit here and talk about Lupin III with you. I have several Lupin III episodes I'm going to be covering on my own podcast, so I welcome the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad that I could bring you over for this one then, because this is a franchise that I knew existed just from being alive in the world. And other than that, I could not have told you anything about it before getting ready for this one.
It's a weird little enigma of a property. Like, it has so many influences crammed into it. It's just a strange little thing.
Well, what was it that got you into Lupin III in the first place?
Well, like a lot of things in my life, Adult Swim is the main culprit behind them. And they were running part 2, which is what this video game is based off of. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a, specific tie-in video game to part 2, because it has the entire part 2 cast. And it's really gratifying to hear their voices. It took me a little while to get into it, because when I was trying to watch it on Adult Swim, there was like no context for it. So after a few years of being on the internet, I kind of started piecing together what this thing is a little bit more, and like what its place in animation history represents. And I think it has a lot of value as a property and a lot of like ways to do slapsticky humor while mixing in other genres that is very unique to itself and has been very influential to a lot of things in animation history.
I think one of the biggest things that surprised me was that Sherlock Holmes connection. And like, it makes sense hearing it and everything, but I'm also growing up in a world where so much of Sherlock Holmes is public domain. And so I had to keep reminding myself that that wasn't always true.
Yeah, I heard somewhere that they got the copyright in for this character, like, before. I'm not highly educated on Japanese copyright law or anything, but the character was created before the character that it's coming from was a public domain character, the Arsène Lupin character that is supposed to be this character's grandfather, and he had a long history in France and was a very popular character. They have a Netflix show based on the actual Arsène Lupin character that's been very popular.
Ooh, somehow I'd missed that, and I'm definitely gonna have to go check that out now. Like, I know it might not have anything to do with this at all, but I still think it'll be fun, so I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah, that might be a good use of your time. I've thought about it.
But as far as Lupin III here, most of my getting ready for this, as far as the like comic history side of things, was watching just some general these are what's going on in Lupin III videos and the Studio Ghibli movie, because that's what I had access to. And watching that, like, I could tell that there was a bunch of stuff I didn't know. I could tell there was a bunch of context I was missing, but it didn't really feel like I was missing too much. Like, I could still follow the story. I could pick up enough of the things, but it was like I just wasn't catching all the Easter eggs that were there. But still a rather enjoyable watch.
Yeah, it has the ability to convey who its characters are, and the general, like, plot lines are interchangeable enough that you don't really need to know, like, everything about these characters when you watch these movies. I think the first movie I got into was Castle of Cagliostro. I really didn't understand, like, that Lupin compared to the older Lupin for a while, because he's sort of a different character. There are different personality traits each creator will put upon their Lupin interpretation. So it's a very flexible series where sometimes characters have differing traits based on what the creator is trying to establish. Like, the part 2 iteration of Lupin is a response to the slight failure of part 1, and in part 1, he's very much the manga Lupin, in that he's a rapscallion who you're only on the side of because he's marginally better than all the bad guys that are around him and trying to pull off stuff around him. And in part 2, they make him a little more charming. They take away, some of the vile underbelly of his, rich boy shenanigans. And, since you mentioned the Ghibli film, which I think it's technically a Topcraft movie, I don't think it's under the Ghibli frame, though we think of it because of Hayao Miyazaki. Miyazaki is one of the people that helped make Lupin more of a charming person, more more of a romantic figure. Before then, I think he had a little more James Bond in him. If you've read some of the manga, then you'll see that he will take whatever he wants, like when he wants. He's very forceful. A person that has no scruples, is using all his partners, and that creates a lot of drama throughout the series as well. And I like that flexibility. I do prefer the more charming Lupin iterations. I like the adventure and romantic elements of the show the most. It can really be flexible because they'll delve into detective stories as well, like with Lupin under various guises and other very compact, like, humanistic tales. And I really like the heart that could be at the center of this franchise. So, like, how do you feel about this one compared to the other stuff you've seen? Like, does it create a lot of dissonance in your head? Like, does this seem like a more intense Lupin than what you're used to?
I feel like I'm going to need to go do a deeper dive with that, because what I've seen from other things is mostly other people's reaction to it.
Oh, okay.
But, and I mean, I like watching that kind of thing to get ready, just so I can, get some varied opinions.
Sure.
It always makes me think of something else on a different angle than I would have gotten to on my own. But for this one, it's just, for whatever reason, despite the fact that we have tried to record this like 30,000 times and the world destroyed all of them except for this one, just the Castle of Cagliostro was the only one that I was able to really get my hands on up until like the other day. And then, of course, I don't have time to dive into those. And so, that's how the world works. But that is definitely one that is going to take full advantage of me recording the outros when I edit so that we can actually get some thoughts in there.
Sure. I think this is a much more intense Lupin. Like, they in the little intro they do, which is a pretty decent callback to the part 2 intro, they show Jigen slicing a bridge in half. Forgive me. They show Goemon slicing a bridge in half, and it has no context in our entire video game. I just love it as, like, an example of this really extreme bit of action that they put into the intro that they don't have to explain.
Maybe I'm just kind of spoiled, but I'm used to seeing crazy stuff in anime. So that wasn't something that really clocked to me as super weird. I just thought it was something about the character that I didn't pick up on from the game. And, I got a little bit of that from the movie, but that was also me getting lucky and catching a movie that had him in it.
Yeah, they don't do a great job with the Sideman playable characters in this. I'm a little frustrated by that aspect of it. I must admit, the gameplay of this is a little tedious, and I hate to say that. And I wasn't looking forward to admitting that, but at the same time, yeah, this game is like very specific about what you have to do, and like if you don't do it, then you are going to bring hours of frustration upon yourself, you know. Yeah, Jigen does not get to slice a bridge in half in this game, and it's very funny. Yeah, it's very funny. Like they choose to show his like extreme amount of power that he could wield with his Zentetsuken, but you don't really get to wield it when you play as him. And all the cool stuff that Goemon gets to do is in the intro and the outro. The Jigen and Goemon segments are kind of laid back in a certain way. It's mostly about going to a weapons dealer and trying to get some information out of someone. Yeah, Fujiko doesn't get much to do either in this one. She is pretty much eye candy, and I'm not saying that to be lewd. I mean, the overall vibe around her is, you know, her being the coquettish femme fatale that is kind of tracing behind the Lupin gang. She's trying to seduce Theodore. You find out, I maybe about halfway through the game, if my playthrough cutscenes are coming into my head properly. And every interaction with her is like her just putting on this baby doll voice. It's pretty hard to ignore it, you know, like, it's something, like, you know what she's doing when you hear it. And, Michelle Ruff, God bless her, one of the great voice actresses in the anime. I'm not holding anything she does in this video game against her, but it does seem like the producers of this are going on easy mode when it comes to adding her into the story. In the intro, they even have, like, an extended moment where she puts on her boots, and then, like, Lupin is running through a hallway, and she immediately, like, lifts up her leg onto the other side of the wall and, like, leans against the wall throughout the whole hallway. Yeah, it's very explicit. I think it's a little tacky. Sometimes I think this series can be a little tacky. I mean, it can be a product of its time on top of just, you know, being positioned in a way that it's a little gratifying for its audience. But at the same time, I love the character of Fujiko Mine. I just wish she had a greater showing in this one. Like, she can be a very flexible character that can do a lot within a story because she's sort of a rogue from the Lupin gang. I don't know how aware you are of her general position in the series, but when she was first made, she was not a set character for a while, and she would just be like whatever the creator wanted to draw for her. So she would have various aliases, and they've taken that and they've done things with that in the other media that are really spectacular. I'm going to be covering part 4, and there's a good little amount of stuff with her in it in part 4 that is very clever.
Yeah, like I'd caught that she was being a spy and, you know, mixing in and getting onto the castle staff, which is cool, you know, and she mentioned that her and Lupin have been lovers. So there's something going on there. But knowing that there is more to her than, especially in what I saw in the game, that's something really exciting for me.
Yeah. There's, you know, depending on what you're going into, then there are moments throughout the newer series that are really electric. She has one of the better Lupin series based around her, The Woman Called Fujiko Mine, which is a very dark, revised take on the original Lupin vision. And it's the only series that's really had a strong, like, female lead behind it, so there's a little more commentary and context there, you know, than is usually within that system. And I really like Lupin as class commentary as well. There's a few little jibes throughout this game that I think work really well. The character of Teresa, when we enter our game, she is sitting in this massive train station platform just watching people work. And don't get me wrong, I think the scene is a little stilted and weird the way they set it up, but the the ultra rich heir that she's working with on the charity, Theodore Hannawald, he comes up and like, tells her like, let me take you back to your car. The train is about to leave. And she's like, no, let me sit here for a few minutes. I like watching the people work. And he says a real snotty thing. Basically, he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. You know how these lower class workers can loaf about. And then her voice actress gives the most, like, completely out of it delivery when she says, well, I didn't mean it like that. Like, it's almost funny in a way how stiff it is. There's a few reviewers that have called some of the acting stiff in this, and I think there's a valid point to be made. I think maybe some of these people weren't necessarily used to doing video games, and video game voice acting wasn't quite as big of an industry as it is now. So I think we have a different view of how video game voice acting should be. Yeah, I do think the voice acting is relatively okay throughout it all. I mean, nothing is like extremely embarrassing. At least I didn't feel that way. Did you have any problems with that, friend?
No, I mean, this is a game from 2004. You're still well inside the era of nobody knows what they're doing with voice acting in video games anyway.
Yeah, from all I can tell, like, it's one of the harder areas of voice acting. You hear a lot of stories about people losing their voice because they have so much demanded of them in the spheres. I think it was Maurice LaMarche who lost his voice for a while because he was screaming on a video game over something like that. Feel free to correct me, anyone. I know you're probably going to anyways. I did not have a problem for the most part with the voice acting on this. I actually felt like I was inside a Lupin special of some sort. So, I think they did the job they needed to do on the voice acting front. I'm not too worried about it.
Well, on that note, let's make sure all of our valuables are locked up while I drop some promos for a few other shows.
Hey folks, my name is Steven and I'd like to invite you to join me on another G.I. Joe podcast. Each episode, we dive into G.I. Joe, a real American hero, the iconic Marvel comic series that began back in 1982. We're talking classic Joe missions, Cobra schemes, ninja showdowns, high-octane action, and the creativity of Larry Hama that made this series unforgettable. Whether you're a longtime fan or discovering these stories for the first time, this podcast breaks down the art, the characters, and the explosive fun of every issue. So gear up and be ready to shout it with me. Yo, Joe!
Those are some great things to check out, but first let's finish up here. So Robbie, we've kind of gotten into it a little bit, but now super officially we're going to get into it. We're looking at this Lupin III game, Treasure of the Sorcerer King. It is the first one to come out over here in North America. Came out in February 2004, only on the PS2 plus computers, but we don't worry about that on this show. Made by Bandai and Banpresto.
You are forgetting about the other Lupin game that came out several years before this one, even though it's not really much of a Lupin game. Cliffhanger, the point and click type game, like a directional command type game that is made up of clips of part 2 and the Castle of Cagliostro. It's like Dragon's Lair, if that puts an image in anyone's head. Had you read into that? Had that popped up for you anywhere?
That hadn't. And I'm surprised because even though I usually don't worry about the arcade-only games or the computer-only games or anything,
Sure.
and that being an arcade one, I still usually know that they exist, and ugh.
I'm sorry if it feels like I'm cuckolding you in public or something.
No, that's fine. I love it when I actually learn something on here too, especially when it's something cool like this.
Yeah, it's a really good fact that's on the wiki. Yeah, I was surprised to learn that. I'd forgotten. I think I'd learned it before, but I'd forgotten about it. And yeah, it's a fun little anomaly. I've never tried to find a port of it or anything, but there aren't many Lupin games, so it's kind of nice to have that weird little anomaly.
I was really surprised that we'd gotten all the way to the PS2 because it seems like you could have really easily gotten like a regular Nintendo or a Super Nintendo game. I mean, this thing was around. There's no reason why we didn't get anything except for the part where anime games over here was just a weird mix.
Oh my word. I mean,
but I mean, we got Golgo 13.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? That was
twice.
Yeah. Golgo 13. And that's hard ass stuff, you know? Like, that isn't like polite. Like, that's hard shit. When I think about anime games, one of the cases I think of is the very first Dragon Ball game, which they released over here with like altered sprites and an altered story, you know, for Western markets because Dragon Ball hadn't come over here yet. And it's so funny to me, there's these little anomalies in licensed products throughout video games. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z have weird video game licensing problems. That's an exploration for another time. I am surprised though we didn't have something sooner, but I think maybe part 2 being on Adult Swim is what sort of paved the way for that. I mean, this does have the Jigen dub cast on it, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's a very specific connection between this game being brought over here and the Adult Swim Part 2 showings. I'm not sure how good it did on that. I think maybe Part 2 felt a little old and weird. You know, I really miss the age when Adult Swim was just broadcasting old-ass anime, you know, late at night when all the other shows have gone off. Like, they don't care about that stuff anymore. They're doing Smiling Friends reruns, and I get it. That's what they had to turn into. But either way, I miss the anime era of Adult Swim. Like, I really miss, like, being up at 3 in the morning and watching Gigantor, which I did not know what was the antecedent of Giant Robo. And that's an amazing anime OVA series. People should get into. Amazing tokusatsu series. Giant Robo is incredible. I highly recommend people look into that. I'll tell you, I bet there's not a Giant Robo video game over here.
At least not with that name that I've run across. But with this one that we're looking at here, you're Lupin III. You're going in. You're trying to steal stuff. Some of your friends are there. Fujiko's nominally there.
This the intro of this, where you gotta go through these cars, this is like so tedious. Basically, you're doing like little Metal Gear skulking around type stuff inside all these train cars, and you have Jigen on your phone here and there, but you don't really talk to him much. I mean, you get maybe 1 or 2 clues from him throughout this, and I think it's kind of like a miss in the gameplay department, because when I think of Lupin III, I think of the gags that you get out of skulking around like this, you know? Like, your gameplay cannot convey gags. And that's a big problem when you're trying to go through this, because it's all about just trying to get clues to open the security locks on all these train compartments. So while you're doing this, it is just tedious. Like, you're trying to get past police officers that have bad AI. They have something called a mind meter, which is them being aware of your physical presence. And if you don't, like, hit your button properly, you can't fool them with your little salute. And, it's very awkward. Like, it doesn't feel like what I would think being Lupin III would feel like, you know? Like, you don't get any witty repartee generally. You know, you got a lot of just basic sound clips going on with it. I got lost on the first level really badly a couple of times. One was about, like, going up the top compartment of one of the cars and going out a window and watching Miss Teresa and Zenigata have a conversation, and then you go back down and you talk to Miss Teresa after the conversation once you've gotten Zenigata's cloak and you can disguise yourself as him. And I mean, that kind of works okay, but it's also like a cutscene thing. Like, you can't really do that without having a cutscene. How do you feel about the puzzle elements of this? Because the little puzzle you had to do where you had to like take the globe around and match the locks like precisely to a piece of paper you found was so boring. Like, and I messed it up so many times. Like, this type of stuff is just so tedious that it makes me mess up because, like, it's slow.
It is definitely something that is not made for the way that I have to play these games getting ready for the show. Like, I wish I had more time to figure it out, but also you're right. It's tedious and repetitive. And like, I don't want to spend my time doing all of that. I want to go steal things.
Yeah, I think I spent about 8 hours, like, getting this together. And I think after about 6 hours, I was like, I gotta watch playthrough of this and figure out how it functions. Because I was going crazy, like, not knowing where I was supposed to go. At one point, I made it all the way through to the actual room where the Pitcher of Honor is being held, which is like your main objective. You're getting this ancient pot called the Pitcher of Honor, and yeah, it's when you get there, you have to have sleep pellets. If you don't have sleep pellets to put the guard asleep, then you can't do anything. It won't go on. You're just stuck there, and you're stuck within the level. I actually had to restart my game from the beginning. Like, yeah, that's the design of this video game. Like, it gives you no out. You have one area where you can pick up sleep pellets, you have one area where you can pick up, like, I mean, there's like 3 or 4 little areas where you can pick up health. It's not very opulent. They don't give you a lot of options. You gotta be very careful.
It reminded me a lot of like NES RPGs where,
Yes.
like, you don't have a lot of memory space to be able to backtrack. You know, you better get their thing the first time, and how are you supposed to know what's even going on? And I'm probably going to do something later as some kind of bonus video thing, just looking at how obtuse some of these games are if you don't have the manual. But this one, like, I found the manual online and I'm looking through it right now as we're recording this too. And I've looked at it before, and it's not a ton of help. Like, it's telling you that there are things you'll have to do, but that doesn't help you when you have no idea that, oh no, you better grab this thing in the first 10 minutes of the game because you're going to need it in hour 30.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my word. Yeah, I didn't know I had to get the Zenigata cloak for a moment as well, and that set me back for probably an hour. Just like not knowing which way I should go and not knowing where it was supposed to be at. And then I came upon the little cutscene, which is your first fake out with Zenigata, and he jumps out of the crate and like arrests you technically, though you get out of it through Lupin's fake hand. He has lots of those little Bugs Bunny tricks on him. That's probably another thing that makes me like Lupin III so much. He's a little Bugs Bunny type. Always has little tricks up his sleeve that shouldn't be possible, but always are. And that's another thing that weighs down the gameplay of this. Like, you're playing with a character that has an infinitesimal amount of tricks. You know, who is like a trickster god in a certain way if you're watching some of these series. So, you know, to be so precarious about everything and to make it so easy to screw up, it kind of like cuts your ability to be in character. Yeah. Like, how long were you able to play this at all, if you don't mind me asking? I promise I'm not holding you. Like, I couldn't even get past the second level, to be honest with you. Like, dear Lord.
Oh, that's a ton further than I got.
Oh, okay.
I mean, part of it was just because of the nature of our rescheduling of everything. I kept not having a ton of time to be ready between that and other episodes I was recording. So I accepted the fact a long time ago on this one that most of my seeing the game was going to be through other people playing it. I did get a little bit though. And I mean, I definitely got the feeling in there of this is not how Lupin should feel. And that was all my fault for how I was playing the game. And it's not like I was playing the game wrong. It was just I had to play the game as it was. So, I mean, what else could I do?
Yeah, I feel you. It's like you're kind of trapped with your hands behind your back, like the way the gameplay is set up. Like it resembles something closer to a visual novel, I think, but it doesn't give you like really satisfying payoffs to some of the stuff. Like the story itself is just like an okay Lupin the Third special. Like I think it has some merits as if you're thinking about it as like a Lupin the Third special. But the gameplay of it, because it's so tedious, like it kind of drags down what can be fun about the cutscenes. There's an interesting cutscene, I mean, in the first level where you go into a car and you stumble upon a couple of cops while you're in disguise as a cop, and they're like, "Hey, you slacking off too?" And then you get a little chummy with them. And they point out that Miss Teresa is with Zenigata in the compartment up ahead, and one of the guys like has sort of a horn dog response, like, "Yeah, that guy gets all the good jobs, doesn't he?" And I kind of wish this was more, but I also kind of like it as like commentary, like the cops they don't really care about Miss Teresa much. They just kind of see her as a mark, for their job. They care more about being jealous of Zenigata than her as a person. There's a lot of police commentary throughout the Lupin series because his main enemy is the police. Zenigata is an Interpol agent, so his main enemy is cops, and I guess that's probably another thing that endears Lupin III to me. When we get into the second level in Hanawald Castle, you are not able to shoot at the police. They give you a gun, and they give you, bullets for the gun, but whenever you shoot at the police, it's just like an immediate, game over screen, and you lose a life, and I just felt like this Lupin the Third would probably be okay with shooting the police from everything they've been showing me up until now. I mean, there's a few, pretty little violent moments in that intro. I think there's one scene where he is actually shooting at people as he's running away. So I feel like this Lupin the Third is a little more scrupulous.
I mean, overall, as we start to wrap things up, what does this game really get right looking at the Lupin the Third franchise?
Oh man, it gets all the voice acting right, Even if occasionally, someone might sound a little sleepy compared to what we're used to in a professional video game, they're still, showing up and delivering one-liners and stuff. There's a great one-liner where Jigen is trying to save Goemon, and Goemon says something about you need to let me go, man. And he's like, "I'm sorry, man. It's not in the script. I like it when they break the fourth wall like that in this series. It really makes me happy when they get a joke like that in." This is a fairly typical special type setup for a Lupin adventure. And it has the makings of some of his more intriguing, fantasy-based adventure. When they go into Hanawald Castle later on, and they're, in the underground corridors, dealing with the Picture of Honor and all this other stuff, I like that type of thing. I like it when they can be a little more Indiana Jones in this series. This series can handle a lot of tones. If you like adventure stuff, it has Indiana Jones as adjacent stuff. And from what I understand, Castle of Cagliostro is a bit of an influence on Steven Spielberg. And I think they've had a little bit of back and forth dialogue with the adventure genre over the past 60 years or so. I mean, there isn't, if you're a Fujiko Mine fan, this might be a fun outlier in a certain way, because it does have Michelle Ruff in the role. It's a role by the actual star of the character, from part 2. So maybe that's a little bit, I mean, she is doing a great job, even if the material is just pretty basic stuff. I'm not for sure exactly where you fall on the sexual demographic, but I recognize when she's doing a good job, even if her material isn't necessarily intriguing. I mean, it fits in really well with some of the adventure tropes. I think you could watch the cutscenes though and have a better time than actually trying to play it because it takes so long. Like the way you run and the little things you do that slow down the gameplay, the stuff where you have X-ray goggles, like that's a little frustrating on a gameplay level, though I guess it's getting the details right as well. Maybe somebody would be really into this on a certain level if they're not worried about the clunky setup of the game, because it does have a certain amount of stealth to it that I think is beneficial. I don't think its head is in the wrong place necessarily, and they probably were using the tools they had available, at the time. I mean, the game looks pretty good in the cutscenes. Fujiko looks better than Lara Croft did, if that gives anyone, a good idea of the graphics at the time. Yeah, it's definitely a step up from something like that. They can't quite do voice acting correctly, to it. There's definitely a lot of moments where mouth flaps are off and doing weird stuff, but that's about what you're gonna get out of a 2004 video game, I think. Anyways, yeah, I think it does have benefits if you're a fan of the series, and it's got a little bit of class commentary, a little bit of character exploration. They have some hard misogyny they point out from these characters. Lupin in particular is always referring to Miss Teresa as a little girl, and she fights back, and it gives her a little bit of edge as a sassy protagonist. Somebody who can bounce off of Lupin a little bit. Character dynamics I feel are pretty good throughout the whole game.
Yeah, from what I've been able to gather on everything, I think Indiana Jones is a great thing to bring up because a lot like those movies, I mean, the whole point of it isn't, does the big thing happen? In the end, I don't really care if he gets these pictures or not. I care about watching what he does while he's trying to get the pictures. So knowing that you get those little jokes in there, knowing that you get to see the interactions with him and the side characters, that is the whole point of a Lupin thing, from what I've been able to gather. And I mean, if I'm right, it's going to be really fun diving into the rest of these.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fun there. If you're an anime fan, or if you have a history, of a love of anime or anything like that, then I think they have rewards. They can be indicative of trends, from whatever, is being put out. The original series and the second series and the third series all have distinct identities between them. The third series is more of a Miami Vice type comedy caper. It's much more neon tinged and all that. It has a much more Looney Tunes aspect to it as well. And it's not my favorite series. I'm probably leaning more towards part 2 and part 4. I really like part 4. Part 4, yeah, is fantastic because it's sort of the sweeter Lupin series. It kind of wraps up everything that's kind of romantic and very endearing about the series into a nice little package. And I like it when we get a Lupin that can be flexible, but also isn't a craven monster. I guess that's the worst part of the series, as at times that his personality is so flexible. You're never exactly for sure which Lupin is going to pop up. Green Jacket Lupin is generally considered the rapscallion. Red Jacket Lupin is a little bit of rapscallion, but more charming. The Green Jacket Lupin shows up in Cagliostro, though, as a means of bringing the character to a close that had been the Lupin from part 1 into part 2. And Hayao Miyazaki wanted to make that a little bit of a finish for his work on the original Lupin series that he had been involved in. And of course, his episodes are just amazing to look at. It's just hard to believe that TV animation could look that good. Then it's hard to believe it could look that good now.
What do you think this game really gets wrong looking at the Lupin franchise?
I just don't think it has a way of integrating what's cool about the cutscenes in with the actual gameplay. Because it's just like such a basic stealth setup. Like, I mean, you don't have a lot of like quips that he gets off. There are moments where like if you walk into a laser guarded hallway or something like that, he'll jump to a cutscene and he'll do this little yeah, and it's very annoying and fluffy, and it doesn't add a lot to your enjoyment of the game. And if you're forced into an area where you end up doing that multiple times, it loses all charm it might have had, from the first couple of times. So I guess my main complaints about it are that you really don't have a lot of interactivity in the gameplay with like the persona of Lupin. You're just sort of in a basic stealth game when you're doing it. Like all the interesting stuff is in your cutscenes and in the way the game kind of unfolds once you've gotten past markers. But I don't know. I think for most gamers nowadays, they don't want to deal with this. The AI is really clunky. You have like half a second to try to thieve off of cops, It's a really weird little back and forth you end up doing. I mean, it's just very clunky. And I do see the good intentions in why they designed the game this way. I mean, I do understand why they have an image of Lupin being slotted into this type of gameplay, but I really wish you had a little more control over Lupin. Like, handling a weapon is odd in this, right? I don't know how often you had to do it, but like the first person perspective to aim a gun, like when you go into it, it just feels weird and clunky, and like shooting doesn't feel like it connects properly. I mean, I wonder if maybe they just had like so much money and they thought, okay, we can make like our cutscenes look really good and then we'll slot it into like this basic stealth game. I mean, that seems like the prevailing ideology, because the level and a half I got through was just so tedious and frustrating. Like, they give you like very little option for interactivity with things. Like, you're just trapped in these puzzles. I don't know, it leaves a little bit of a distaste in your mouth after a while when you just have to keep going back and forth to do things. Look, I went through multiple playthroughs of this game, okay, friend? I promise you and your audience and everyone listening to this, that I gave this game a solid shot trying to play it. But I went through playthroughs of this, and they are all like hours long. Like, each episode, each little level is hours long. So that means other people are having the same problems I'm having trying to get through this game. So that must indicate a broader problem than what I'm dealing with, I think.
Like, I'm not scared of a game that I have to put time into. It doesn't necessarily work well with the nature of this show sometimes.
Yeah.
But, I'll go in and, I'll play the game. It's fine. But this one, like, I don't know how you can get the quippiness of Lupin in here without either having the problem of him repeating lines eventually.
Yeah.
So much that it just gets annoying, or you having to press a button to decide what he's going to say, which is going to be different, but also really annoying, because I don't want the game to stop just so I can say something. And then with this game, I don't want to worry about, oh no, did I say the wrong thing? And it ruins something 10 hours later in the game.
You know, like, and they had opportunities to make the game more interactive. Like, maybe they could have given you an option to, like, to change the conversation with Fujiko a little bit, you know? When they have that conversation in, like, this dressing room she's in Hanawald Castle, maybe you could have been given the option to be like, oh, I'm going to be a little sweeter to Fujiko, or I'm going to be a little more randy to Fujiko, and maybe you would have had different outcomes from that. I mean, that might have been a small way to remedy some of this stuff, and I think that's a problem too. You know, it just feels like the fun that is going on in the cutscenes of this game do not translate to its gameplay. You spend so long just trying to get to, like, little cutscenes and things. It really just, like, I don't think this game is going to age well because of that. Like, I think modern lenses definitely look at this as a little creaky. Though I do think for Lupin fans, it's at least worth watching a playthrough of. You know, they might find some benefit in the idea that they tried to make a stealth game out of this. I just wish, like, you had a way to express, like, how the team works together a little better as well. Like, I wish I could have done more with Jigen and Goemon. I wish I could have played as Fujiko at some point, you know? I wish I could have skulked through the castle like she did in Castle of Cagliostro. You know, you don't get any moments where Fujiko is, like, in on her bit. She's always on the outside of the Lupin adventure until it collides with her goals at the end. And that's a sign of poor usage for her.
If you knew somebody who wanted to get into Lupin III, would you give them this game as part of a primer course?
Oh, no. That might have the opposite effect, I'm sad to say. I would like mention this after about a year of them showing active interest in it. You know what I'm saying? Because I think it's a little too insider baseball in a few moments, you know? It's like gender issues might be a problem too. For someone, it's on the harder end of the Lupin critique shtick. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, like, you know, if you genuinely enjoyed the series and you, like, find a lot of friction between the characters to be a good thing, then I guess that'd be good for you. But I still would recommend a playthrough, because if you want to dive into this, you're going to be spending maybe over 100 hours trying to piece together everything, because it does not give you these clues easily sometimes. I mean, you have to walk around and make sure you've checked every little area that you need to a lot of the time. So, yeah, you know, about a year after they show that they're caring about the series.
Purely in the interest of trying to not 100% agree with you there, I'm trying to think of anybody that I would give this game to. And, like, it would have to be somebody who is just really into those old RPGs or the point and click adventures that were getting, like, down to the pixel level of you need to click the right thing. And, like, anybody who was super into those, I might give it to them. But even then, I feel like you'd be selling the series so short that I don't think it would do a good job. But at least that kind of person wouldn't be super annoyed by the game.
Very true. And I think even for fans of the game, it's a little bit of a lightweight, you know, entry into the franchise lore. Like, I don't think Hanawald Castle or Miss Teresa ever popped up in anything. Again, you know, I'm a little bit a part of the larger fandom through Facebook groups and things like that, and I don't see anyone ever mentioning Miss Teresa at all. So I don't think this game has really dented the fan love for this series. I think most of the love for this series comes from the manga and the anime. Like, I think this game has kind of become just an anomaly for fans and the general public alike.
And finally, we need to give Lupin some more friends. Just some more people to hang out with him as he's going and figuring out what's going on with all of his adventures. So, which Muppet do you want to see the most go on an adventure with Lupin III?
Okay, well, There are two very good options I can think about, right? Number one, Rolf. He could be like their little guy who does communications. I think he would be like quippy enough to, fit in well with the gang. He doesn't have to necessarily be in the thick of it. He could be the guy sleeping in a hammock and waiting on the radio. I would also like to see Miss Piggy be like the rival to Fujiko Mine. Yeah, okay, maybe some people would be a little irritated that she's being slotted in to like a romantic role against another woman. But I do think there would be some friction there, at least. Those characters would bounce well off of each other. I would like to see Lupin interested in her too. I don't want him to be disgusted by her. I want him to, have a little charm with Miss Piggy as well in her femme fatale role.
Oh, both of those are amazing. Like, I thought you were going to go the more action-y route, and I'm so glad that you didn't, because, I mean, first off, just Miss Piggy on there, I think would be great.
Oh my god, you could do so much.
And I think that's a role that she would just chew the mess out of doing it and have so much fun with it. But Rolf is just so laid back, quippy, doesn't put up with anybody's crap kind of thing. I mean, he's a sleeper as one of my favorite Muppets.
Oh man, I love Rolf. And he has one of the deepest histories of any of the Muppets. I mean, he's technically one of the first Muppets that are created by Henson. And I love him as a piano player in a bar. I love him as like a stagehand or something, I love him because he's so low key. Like, he's one of those characters that adds flavor. He isn't necessarily a plot motivator, but he's always fun when he shows up. He has probably the funniest gag in the 2011 The Muppets, where they are going around putting back together the company, the theatrical company of the Muppets, and Ralph is just sleeping on a porch, and they like Kermit and I can't remember who else is with him, but they show up and they just wake him up. And it's like, we're getting things back together, buddy. Okay? He just immediately drops whatever life he has there and joins them for this. And it made me laugh so hard when I saw that in theaters. And it's been a standout moment for that character in my head for a long time. I would love to have a character like Rolf in here because he is laid back compared to every other character. So you could have him as a side character that doesn't necessarily interact with the Lupin gang too much, but you could have him like doing communications, you could have him making quips, they could be running in on him like while he's sleeping in hideouts and stuff like that. I'm feeling pretty good about Ralph. I love that little dog so much.
Well, Robbie, it has been great talking to you about all this. If people want to hear more from you, where else can they find you around the internet?
You can find me on Spotify and Apple and most of the usual places where you can find a podcast. I'm getting an RSS feed together, and I'm going to be updating the Internet Archive account that got closed because I hadn't been messing around with it. Doing all this online stuff is a little boring at times, so I let it slide sometimes. But at the same time, I'm going to be getting stuff up. We got a 5-year anniversary coming up. So I'm going to be making this year a little bigger. I wanted to do it last year, but the cards didn't fall out right. But this year is looking like it's going to have a little more opportunity. So I hope you'll join us on Conversations with Robbie Sherman. We're going to be going over part 4 with my friend Charitz, the Sci-Fi Savage on YouTube. And we're going to be going over part 5 with the Vern from Cinema Recall. And I'm going to be doing just a few episodes of those. But I'm going to be trying to get through all of part 4, and I think I have a couple of people that want to do that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to a busy year. We got Batman Caped Crusader coverage that I've been holding back on for various reasons. And I'm hoping I can get that out and it'll collide with Caped Crusader Season 2 a little better as well. So I'm thinking holding back was the right choice. Thank you so much for letting me on here, Chris. I love your podcast. The episode you did about Snoopy versus the Red Baron, amazing. I mean, I love the Peanuts gang, and I hadn't thought about like the Peanuts video games in a long time. And I didn't even know that one really existed. So I'm going to check that out myself because that just seems like a fun thing to do. Like, that's how you integrate your characters into a video game. You capitalize on their main traits and like really like give it something exciting to do. Like that sounded good.
I'd like to take credit for things, but my big secret is I find good guests.
Yeah, you got amazing guests here. Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of Litterjaw alum, and I'm friendly with those people. Yeah, I love Play Comics. I love what you've been doing here, friend. It's a real honor to be on here. Thank you so much for having me.
And like always, we'll have links to all your stuff down in the show notes because clicking links is so much easier than trying to remember how to spell things. As always, the best place to find me is over on playcomics.com, where there's links to all that social media stuff, which is mostly Blue Sky and Threads, because that just seems to be where I have settled in. It's a good little spot. You can find me over there. Not always relevant to the podcast, but always relevant to the podcast, because that's just how relevancy works, I guess. I don't know. If you want to be on the show, then there's a list of things that I'm looking to get booked down in the show notes. That list is going to be the best thing that you can look at. But if you can't commit yourself to a full episode, then you can always just send in your thoughts for upcoming episodes. We didn't get any thoughts on this one, and I just have to think that they snuck right by me because this is a Lupin game. If you want to get your thoughts in for the next episode, then we're going to be looking at Justice League Heroes for the PS2, Xbox, PSP, and Nintendo DS. If you want to help support the show, then you can be like Dan McMahon or Ono Lit Class and give the show money, because unfortunately it does cost money to run a podcast. That's just the way that society works. But you can always just tell your friends, your enemies, some random person that you see on the street about it, that nice guy at the hot dog stand who sometimes gives you a free hot dog because you look like you need a free hot dog. Don't forget that Play Comics is a part of the GonnaGeek.com network, home to other such wonderful shows as Capes on the Couch. I can't even put anything here. It's making me feel bad about it now. Put out a new episode, guys. I know you're ready for it. If you want to hear Carrington Martin and I talk about all those things in children's media that taught us all those lessons that we're supposed to like take out into the real world and use, but then, we became adults and suddenly things like sharing and making sure that people are treated fairly and stuff, that's bad. You want to go check out Sugar Spite and Everything Is Fine. It's a random release schedule, and Carrington and I need to get on our scheduling game because right now it is not working out very well. Thank you, stupid day jobs, for that. If you like the music that I'm rudely talking on top of right now, head on over to backingtrack.gg and check out all the great music over there and maybe find something for your own project. But most of all, just grab a game, grab a stack of comics, and go find yourself a new favorite character. We are looking at Lupin. Oh man, I've spent my whole life saying Lupin.